during, at least in the last few days. That's that of NDDC, as well as that of the $418 million controversial that will be paid to some contractors or consultants, as they call themselves. Mr. Chukwu, speak to me about when you saw this news, what came to your mind? Or should I just give our viewers an intro, or a background of it? The president has seemingly approved the controversial payment of $418 million in Paris Club related judgment debts to 6 creditors. President Buhari has told the finance ministry to pay, and the finance ministry has told the DMO to issue a promissory notes. As a result of this, we've seen House of Rep members as well as governors are protesting this payment. The Kayode Fayemi-led NGF is saying that there should also be a forensic audit. This controversial $418 million to be paid to just a few individuals when we are in dire needs of funds. Mr. Chukwu, what do you think?
Okay, Nancy, I think for me, this issue of payment to the consultants who helped in securing the Paris Club refund has been on for quite some time. The governors had actually quarreled over this issue. It had actually led to some problems among the governors forum, including their secretary or the chief administrator in that forum, among the governors forum. And the issues that the governors feel that there was no major contribution by a consultant in getting those funds, or that the amounts being charged is exorbitant. I think it's not something the president should just approve by fiat. You could see the governor saying that the banks should disregard the presidential order, which is a major conflict in the governance framework of the country. I think the governor should have a meeting with the president should have a meeting with the governors, and then agree on areas of disagreement. I mean, review areas of disagreement and resolve those issues. A $418 million is quite a huge amount of money to be deducted from the state's allocations or the state's funds and pass on to a so-called consultant. Let's even know why the governors have major issues with paying this consultant. Let's even determine exactly the specific assignment that was executed by this consultant and the terms of contract and who signed those contracts with the consultant before you decree a payment to the consultant. I think the governors have an issue, and it's not something anybody should wave aside, because the amount involved is quite huge, and it's not as if the governors, the state governments, have so much money at their disposal they want to part with about $418 million.
The issue also there would be, did the consultants do their work? If they did their work, why not pay me for what I did? Let me play the devil's advocate.
Yeah, that's why I said that in the first place, we need to look at the terms of engagement. The terms of engagement would have been specific on the responsibilities of both parties. The specifics of what the contractor ought to have done, if they carried out that assignment, and what are the payments due to the contractor, the basis of computing the fees due to the contractor. So let them go back to the terms of engagement, the contract itself, and determine, and they'll be able to resolve any disputes if there still be any by the time you look at the terms of the engagement. But like I said, it's not something you just decree. There is supposed to be a contractual agreement between the governors forum and the contractor who carried out this assignment. And what did those contracts specify? Have they been kept to the terms be made to the letters? And then if they be made to the letters, it becomes obligatory for payment to be made.
What does this really say about our contracting process or hiring of consultants? Because I know that things like this may not happen abroad. If you take a look at the percentage, 20% or so. For example, in the United States, for you to even enter a contract and get a 20%, man, you're going to, you're going to sweat it out. We're talking of 0.1, 0.5%. Mr. Chukwu, you're smiling because you know what I'm saying is the truth. Perhaps you've done business with international people. So you know what I'm saying. But in Nigeria, percentages are so humongous, 20%, 30%. And at the end of the day, we're looking at what does this really say about our contracting process, or how we engage people to do businesses with us. We know what happened, was it last year? I think the issue is in court now. The government said we are not going to pay this and this and that. So what does it really say about our contracting process, and what kind of processes should we put in place to avoid these kind of things rearing its head again and again?
Okay, I will take it from two perspectives. Let me start from the public sector perspective of issues. One of the things that happen in the public sector is that because the public sector operators do not feel obligated to meet terms of contracts, they enter into any contract without looking at the fine details of the contract. Because at the back of their mind, either they feel that the obligation to make the payment will not fall under their tenure, or they will not even bother to make payment. We know of past governors in some states that we enter into any form of contract without the intention of making payment, because the law is not strict and is hardly enforced. So you can help somebody for donkey years and you don't have any sense of obligation to make that payment. So in a lot of instances, the public sector procurement entail signing contract they never intended to abide with. The second aspect of it is that they leading in some of these contracts are huge payback or refund to the public sector official that endorse those contracts. So in such instances, the contracts are naturally are padded with the intention of returning the excess to the contractee. And in this instance, it's not impossible because the contractees are no longer in government, and maybe the contractor is still obligated to return the money to them. Present government officials or the present governors feel they are not beneficiaries to those padded values, or they feel a sense of responsibility to the society and feel that those contracts were overinflated, and they now want to cut it to what the appropriate rate should be. But if you strip public sector contracts of these two major extraneous factors, then the contract will go back to what is obtainable in the private sector, where the pecuniary interest of those who are awarding the contract is not what is determines who wins the contract. But in the public sector, the value systems are completely different. It's basically more of the interest of the contractee that determine who gets the contract. You have instances where the public procurement has specified at least 3 bids, and one contractor will bid for those, will submit those 3 bids in different names. So ultimately, it's a fait accompli, and then the prices are similar because they already agreed ab initio and then inflated. So by the time they are presented to the procurement committee, it's basically 3 contracts within the same range, but all behind it's actually one contractor, and the contract is given out with an inflated price. And that's why we're not getting value for money in many instances. You realize that in several procurement cases, the value for money is missing in Nigeria, and that's why we're not able to build infrastructure at the rate other countries are building, because the resource we use to build a small infrastructure would have been used to build 10 times of what we have committed it to. So you have to deal with the value system in the public sector, which is underpinned by corruption, the public interest, the interest of the individuals who are awarding the contract, and the fact that we don't have a really independent body that will scrutinize this contract and determine the value for money in them. And finally, the fact that the governors, there's nothing that compels a government officials or government agency to pay according to the terms of the contract. And you have instances where the governors will owe you until they leave government, and the next government will not even bother to pay you.